Good afternoon. Here again for another episode of 30 for 30 with our friend Stormborn. I was wondering how we can still expose our horses even if we are at home and we can't go on trail ride. So I thought about it. In the end, one good tool every time, one good tool to use is a tarp. Here we have some good tarps for the farm. Perhaps at home you might don't have a tarp, so you can still use like a whole bunch of bags all like pinched up all together, or you can use also the wrap for the haylage if you guys use the haylage at home. So you can just use something that is plastic material and a little floppy and larger than a flag. You can use like a huge raincoat. That would also, if you are Irish, I'm sure at home you have a raincoat. So you can use, as I said, like anything that is plastic and floppy. Now, how can I expose my horse to with the tarp? I found the easiest way to do it is by first having a tarp on the ground. So you have your horses that are going to be able to look at it. Stormbird had a look when I brought it inside, but he wasn't particularly surprised. You know the horse by now, and he can get scared because he's a 2.5-year-old, but he has the tendency of thinking about it before he just gets scared. So remember we had our fence for the fence exercise of 3-4 days ago. Same principle of the fence. This time, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna stay on the same side of a tarp, and I'm gonna send my horse on a straight line between me and the tarp. If you got a gap between your horse and the fence, he'll walk through it. But if you have that gap between, let's say if we do it the other way around with the tarp by the fence and your horse and you want your horse between you and the tarp, you might get the risk that your horse, because he's a little bit concerned of the tarp, he's gonna come into your space. And you never want your horses to never want to teach that to your horses unless you want them in your space, but not in this exercise. So I'm gonna try to, whether it's a tarp or whether it's something that might scare my horse, I'm gonna try to be on the same side of what is gonna have an influence on my horse in that case. So you can start with a gap that, I don't know, it can be a meter and a half, about a meter though, it should be enough. And that's because as you start with a wider space, when your horse becomes cool with it, stop there. When your horse goes through it and is cool with that, you can move this tarp a little bit closer and closer and closer and closer. So I'm gonna stand maybe a little bit on the tarp so it makes that sound for the horse, because sometimes for horses can get a little bit concerned of the plastic sound that the tarps make. Right, as your horses gets better and better, as I was saying, you close that gap and you make it smaller and smaller. Now I just reduced my distance of probably half the size by doing it like that, but you can just go 2 centimeters every 2 centimeters. You know, it doesn't have to be all in once like that. I have to make a shorter video, so I have to kind of like go through it. Same exercise. I'll send my horse forward. As he's finished, I close my door. My horse is supposed to square up in front of me. You do that a few times. You might use your legs to also expose that, send it through, close your door. This time I wasn't particularly happy of how he squared up in front of me, but something that I'm going to be aware of, and I'll have to work with my horse in this situation. Right, as your horse gets better and better with it, you can close completely the gap and see what happens. One thing you can do is maybe not having the tarp by the length anymore between you and your horse, but more horizontal. This way your horse will have shorter step to make. Or you can also wrap it and make it even smaller, right? So from here, good boy, same exercise, you're gonna send your horse through it. Close your door, square up. And you do that a few times if you see your horse to be concerned. I'm gonna be more precise about this squaring up. All I did here, I made him get at the end of the lead rope. How? You imagine to be a post on the ground, and if your horse pull on this lead rope, this slack is gonna come out, and he'll have to square up and break his hindquarters over. That also happens a lot if we tie our horses to a fence and we want to saddle them. If they go and we send them one way, they're going to get at the end of the lead rope sooner or later. So I'll send him over, square up, square up. The exercise for me here is the tarp, but I'm going to try to be more particular and specific about what I want my horse to go. This side it's not so bad, but this other one, actually let's say this other one, it's not as good as that one, because we want to build on the positive. So I don't want to say this side is so and so and this one it's really bad. I would say this one it's pretty good, but the other one not as good. That was much better. The pressure that there was on this lead rope was a lot better than the last time. I'll try it once more, put some life on it, see if he squares up for himself. It wasn't great, but it didn't pull this time. And maybe you can do the same thing at the trot. Square up. Good. We'll try the other side. And square up. Eventually, you can open your tarp and have your horses going on a larger surface. Right? So, there are a lot of, good boy. There are a lot of things that you can play with the tarp on the ground. And some people like it even to have, chase the tarp, good boy. Some people prefer to have it in the middle of the arena. It's totally up to you. Whatever helps your horse better, I'm very open with it. Okay, some more things that tarp is boring. So we're gonna go for another another exercise with the tarp, but for that you have to wait till tomorrow.